Hi everyone, my name is Kat, Free Librarian, and welcome to a new video. Today I will be sharing my March TBR with you. It is a very overambitious TBR. It started off fine, and then things just kept being added to it, and it kept getting longer and longer, and so we're sitting with like 2 months worth of reading in 1 month or something like that. It's a lot. Also, you may have heard there's some construction going on, so sorry for the noise there. But let's get into it. I will start off with 3 books that I started in February that'll be rolling over into March. The first one is a short story collection, and that is The Mistletoe Bride and Other Haunting Tales by Kate Moss. It's a collection of gothic stories. I've read 7 stories, I have 8 left, so I'll definitely be finishing this in March, but I'm just dipping in and out of this one whenever I feel like it, and usually this is my book that I take with me on the go because I can just read a story when I have a bit of time, and then that's it. So I'll be reading this. I also have The Wings of Ashtaroth by Steve Hugh Westenra, which is an adult epic fantasy inspired by the conflict between ancient Rome and Carthage. I have so far read the prologue, which was really good, but I need to continue it. I want to do like a separate spoiler-filled video where I check in after every chapter of this book, because after the prologue there's just so much to discuss, but I just have to sit down and actually film that before I can continue reading. So but yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It is very long though, but it'll be read somewhere this year. And then the last one I'm rolling over is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. I'm about halfway through. This is a literary fiction about a girl who's being groomed by her teacher, and has a relationship with her teacher. And then we also follow her later as an adult, looking back at this time. I think like the past timeline is definitely more interesting than the present one, but we spend a lot more time in the past one as well. But I think it's really good. It's quite hard to read, but it's a good book so far, so I'll be finishing that as well. Then I have a few like buddy reads, read-alongs, but some of them I'm not sure if I'm gonna really commit to them. Others I certainly will commit to. So let's start off with the ones that I definitely want to read this month. So first, I am part of an online book club hosted over on Reading Nymph's Discord, so I'll link her YouTube channel down below, and you can find her Discord there if you're interested. And we buddy read a book every month. I don't always participate, it depends on like what the book is and if I have time. But this month I really want to participate in because we're going to be reading The Will of the Many by James Islington. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I tried looking it up, but I couldn't find a pronunciation in like on his website or in his author bio. So we'll have to guess. But this is the first book in the Hierarchy series, which is a Roman-inspired fantasy where we have like will as our magic system. So that means that you can give up your will to the people above you in the hierarchy, and then they give it above them and whatever. So we have sort of a pyramid scheme situation. I'm not sure if like what will exactly is, if it's just like you literally give your free will to them and they have control over you, or if it's some like specific magic related in-world thing. I'm not sure. We'll see. But we have a school setting, and we have a main character who wants to destroy the system from the inside out. So it's being compared to Rising sometimes. So yeah, I want to give it a try. It sounds interesting. Then I have a buddy read with Andrew over at Andrew's Wizardly Reads. I'll also link his channel down below. And we're going to be reading The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. This is the first book in, I'm not sure what the series is called, but it's a Middle Eastern inspired fantasy. It's a quest fantasy, like pretty classic, but I've heard good things. So we'll see. Every month I also made the goal to read a Discworld book a month. So for this month, that is Sorcery by Terry Pratchett. I tend to go into Discworld books pretty blind, or at least I try to. Sometimes I just happen to have heard it, but it's not something that I go look up the synopses for, so I have no idea what Sorcery is about. But I assume it's going to be something with wizards, just based on the title. But we'll see. I've enjoyed every Discworld book so far. I haven't loved all of them, but I have enjoyed all of them, so I assume that I'm going to be enjoying this one as well. Then I have 3 sort of commitment reads that I'm not sure if I want to participate in. The first one being The Wall of Storms by Ken Liu over at the Wizardly Enclave Discord. There is a read-along, I forgot who hosts it exactly, of the Dandelion Dynasty. And so for that, I did read the first book in January. This is the second book that was supposed to be read in February, but I wasn't able to get to it. So I did put it on my March TBR. Theoretically, I should also put the third book on here, but there's no way I'm going to read both of them this month. And so, like, well, I do really want to read this. Part of my thought process was, you know, I'm already behind on the buddy read, so I could also just not read it right now and just make my TBR like 1,000 pages later, and finish it on my own time. Because I'm already behind on the buddy read, so I can just drop off and finishing it whenever I have time to. But yeah, I really liked the first book in this. It's like silk punk epic fantasy. And yeah, I really liked the first book, and so I do want to continue on, but this one is like lower on the priority. Because of the reason I just mentioned. Then the second buddy read is on the same Discord, and that is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, or at least part 1 of The Way of Kings, because this edition splits them into half. I have been saying that I want to start the Cosmere for so long right now, and I just keep not doing it. And I keep wanting to do it. I keep saying I want to do it, but I keep putting it off for some reason. And so I thought, you know, with the release of Stormlight 5 this year, there's going to be so many Stormlight read-alongs. And like joining in on one of those is going to be a best shot at actually reading this at some point. And on the Wizardly Enclave Discord that I was already a part of, so that was convenient, there is a buddy read of the series that starts in March, so I'm gonna try and join in and finally read this series. So we have, like, for the first book we have March and April, so I'm my initial plan was to divide it up so to have part 1 in March, part 2 in April, but with the size of this TBR, I might just read the entire thing in April. We'll see. But if, well, anyway, I'll read this at the end of the month because I would like to read part 1 and 2 fairly close together because they're supposed to be one book. So I would like to read them back to back. But yeah, I don't know a ton about the plot. I know that it's an epic fantasy, and that's about it. But I really want to try it. So here we are. The last book on the non-priority buddy read list is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. This is the first book in the Throne of Glass series. Bethany over at Beautifully Bookish Bethany is starting a Sarah J. Maas read along, and I've been wanting to try her books for a really long time. So I thought maybe I should try joining in on that. So they're starting with Throne of Glass. I'm not sure if I'm going to participate in this buddy read because it was pretty last minute for how much of my reading I plan out in advance. So we'll see if it happens. Who knows? I also told Bethany that I would like to, she was looking for content creators who want to join her for like live streams and such, and I said like I maybe want to do it, but my schedule is full, so we'll see if I actually find the time. So I'm going to put it on the TBR. If I am not able to get to it, then I'm not able to get to it. It's fine. But I would like to put it on here. Then I have the rest of the TBR because as of all of this is not enough, I have other books on my TBR. So, first of all, I have The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Niveau, which is the first book in the Singing Hills cycle. This is only a novella. It's very short, so it shouldn't take me too long to read. But I'm really curious. I've heard great things about the series, and so I really want to try it. Then I have a goal to read more nonfiction, which is not like an official goal for this year. It's just a general goal that just always goes. So I put one on my March TBR, and that is Twilight of Democracy, The Seductive Lure of Authoritarianism by Anne Applebaum. It's like a political nonfiction thing about just looking at so many countries that have been democratic for a long time. They're sort of starting to show a lot of signs of more authoritarian regimes, and they start to become less democratic, and it sort of investigates like, why is that? Like, what about an authoritarian regime is there that we just seem to keep coming back to it, even if we think we've lost it for good. So yeah, I'm very interested in this one. It's not too long either, so I'm gonna try it. Then I also have a little goal to read more middle grade, because I do read middle grade and children's books sometimes, but since starting BookTube, I've noticed that I read less and less of it, which is a shame. Also because I have been playing with the idea for a story that I may want to write, or a book I may want to write, that would work really well for a middle grade audience. So I would like to write a middle grade book, so maybe we should read some more of it, or just get back in the habit of reading more middle grade. So I have 2 series picked out that I want to start. The first one is Pages & Co. with Tilly and the Book Wanderers. It's like a fantasy where we have like things with book and characters from books coming to life. I've read a book where the premise really reminds me of this. It's a Dutch middle grade book, and I don't think that there is an English translation out. Like last time I checked, there wasn't. But it's called De Kleine Odessa in Dutch, which means the little Odessa, which also had a very similar concept to this. And I'm just really curious how the two compare. Not to say that like one stole the other person's idea, because I believe that the first Kleine Odessa book came out before this, but obviously I don't know that Anna James reads in Dutch. So, like, I'm not saying that one of them stole from Dutch. I don't think that that's what happened, but it's just a very similar premise that reminds me of one another. So I'm really curious how the two of them compare. And then I also have Frostheart by Jamie Littler. This is the first book in also a middle grade fantasy. I've heard great things about this series. I know nothing about it. I know that it has ice, and that it's in a cold setting, and that it's a fantasy, and that it's middle grade, and that's about all I know. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm excited. I wanna read this. And I also wouldn't be me if I also didn't just add a comic to the TBR. And that's one. I read the first album in the Castle and the Stars series by Alex Alice in January, I believe. And I really, really loved it. And so I've been wanting to read the second album ever since I read that. But I didn't get to it in February, so it's going on the March TBR. This will conclude the first arc in this series. It's 6 albums total, but it's like 3 arcs that always are 2 albums each. But I really loved it. It was pitched as Jules Verne meets Miyazaki, and it does kind of look like a Ghibli film, like from the art style and just the overall vibes. I really loved it. I really love the art style. I love the story. So I want to know how this arc concludes. So yeah, I'm very, very curious. And then, as if all of that is not enough, I also have some NPR books. One of those is a book that was already on my February TBR, but I wasn't able to get to it in February, so I put it on March, and that is The Animals at Lockwood Manor by Jane Healey. This is a gothic type story set during World War II, where the collection of the Natural History Museum in London is moved to this manor called Lockwood Manor for safekeeping, and our main character goes with the collection to keep it safe, and then gothicness ensues. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it, actually only one person, but yeah, I'm curious. I want to read it. It sounds fun. Then I would also like to read Beach Read by Emily Henry, contemporary romance by a very popular author. I had a hold on the audiobook for a little while, and it came in, so I can listen to the audiobook. I don't, if you spend a lot of time on this channel, you know that I don't read a lot of audiobooks, but every once in a while I do listen to one. So yeah, we'll give this a try. We'll see if I can get to it. I mean, because the other books are going to be physical reads or ebook reads, the time that I would be doing stuff, where I would usually listen to some booktube or other YouTube, but mostly booktube. like I would be listening to an audiobook. So we'll see where it goes. And then the final book of this video is I Hope This Doesn't Find You by Anne Liang. This is a YA contemporary about a girl who like this straight A students, teachers love her. She's like this perfect school girl person, you know, the type. But deep down, she's full of anger. And so every evening, she writes these really angry emails, like hate emails, where she is really mean to people. She never sends them, of course. Like, imagine that. Until one day, whoopsie, they end up being sent to everyone. So now everyone knows how she thinks about them, and she has to deal with the consequences of that. I think it's a very interesting read. I personally, like, I hate writing emails. I get so scared and so nervous. And this is like one of my biggest fears, that I end up sending an email and it ends up with someone that it isn't meant for, or there is something weird in it that isn't supposed to be in it, and I can't change it, but I can see that it happened and there's nothing I can do about it. Like, oh, that's one of my worst fears. Um, so yeah, this I, I feel for this main character, and I want to see. I guess sounds like an interesting story, so I want to give it a try. So that was the TBR. It is a lot for me. Like, this is more reading than I can do in a month. Like twice as much reading than I can do with a month. So yeah, this is not all going to happen. So let me know if you've read any of these, which ones I should prioritize, because prioritization will need to happen. Also, if you've read any of these and you liked them or didn't like them, let me know, and tell me what book or books are you excited to read in March. And I will see you in another video. Bye.